Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, Wrestling with Books. My name is Nina and yes, I am a big wrestling fan, but what I talk about on this channel is just books. If you want to hear me talk about wrestling, you can visit my other channel, Wrestling with Disney. But here we talk about my love of books of all kind, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 books of 2022. Now, just want to make it clear, these are my top 10 books that I read in 2022. It does not mean that they were released in 2022 because, you know, I had a, excuse me while I color up, I had a mix of, you know, publication years and genres because I like to read, you know, a bit of everything. So I did put some notes together. I went through what I read so I could pull my top 10, and I noticed that of my top 10 books, so I read so far, it's Christmas Eve when I'm filming this, yay! I've read 82 books, so it'll probably end at 83, 84, something like that. So of the top 10 though, 7 of them I rented from the library. 5 were 2021 releases, so I think that means like I'm just like a year behind with staying like up to date on books. The oldest release was 2009, so not too many old books in the top 10. And 5 were young adult, so young adult seemed to be my most popular genre. I don't read it exclusively, but it really does seem that when I do read it, I like it. So I kind of just put these in the order that I read them from Goodreads. They're not ranked 1 to 10, but I guess I guess I'm trying to think if I even know which were my favorites, but the young adult ones really were like among my top faves. Starting with this first one, which was The Other Merlin by Robyn Schneider. So this is a gender bent Camelot retelling, and it's gender bent because Merlin is a girl. Her name is Emery. Prince Arthur is, well, he's a prince at the time, right? Yeah, he's, you know, he's depressed. He's really into plants and the library, and it's Lancelot who tries to kind of get him out of that, and Lancelot is demoted to a guard because of things in his personal life, but Merlin goes in disguised as her twin brother because she's passionate about magic and her brother is just passionate about girls. So she goes in for this opportunity when he is sent to come in to serve, you know, the royal family. Sparks, of course, end up flying between Merlin and Prince Arthur, and I love it. And I love the Camelot setting, and I wish I had more young adult retellings that were Camelot related, or just even more Camelot stories. So if you have any to recommend to me, I would love to hear them because I really loved this book. And book 2, The Future King, comes out in March 2023 because we do have Guinevere coming in, and that ruffles some things up as the story goes on. So there was a lot happening and a lot that I was looking forward to hearing about. So I think if you're a fan of Once Upon a Time, you know, in the later seasons we got the Prince Arthur stuff, or if you just like that kind of fun era, you should definitely check this out, especially if you're a young adult book reader. The next book that I picked to showcase is actually a nonfiction book. I got it from NetGalley, and this was released in May 2021. And it is called Behind the Red Door, and it's by Louise Claire Johnson. It tells 2 stories. My favorite parts of it were that it tells the story of Elizabeth Arden, and boy, I did not know what a pioneer businesswoman she was till I read about it. I mean, the way she worked around the limitations on women to be able to own an office, own a business, etc. was just mind-blowing, and nothing stopped her. Nothing stopped her. And that's what I really liked about this book. But what goes along with it is Louise shares her journey of loving Elizabeth Arden and moving from Canada to New York City to work for the company. So that's how the 2 stories come together. and I really liked it. So I got this book from NetGalley, and I'm so glad I did. If you are inspired by hearing about other successful women, if you're a businesswoman, if you're looking for inspiration to do something, you know, do something. Doesn't matter what it is you want to do. You should check this out. Sorry, my phone notifications are on because my brother's picking me up lunch today. So I gotta go put in my order. Alright, I put my order in. He doesn't know if he's gonna get Taco Bell or Burger King. So I gave him an order for both. Because, you know, it is Christmas Eve, but I'm not going out till much later, and you gotta have like your base meal, you know, to get ready for the big meal. So this is base mealing. This is me base mealing. Okay, so the next book that I love, this is definitely on like the top half. Another young adult book that I rented from the library, and it is called The Corpse Bride. The Corpse Queen, I'm sorry. You know where I got Corpse Bride from. Okay, The Corpse Queen by Heather Herrman, and it is that dark feeling because we are following a girl, Molly, or is that the name of her friend? No, Molly, who ends up, she's part of an orphanage, and her aunt kind of calls on her when she's a teenager, and she becomes a grave robber, and it is so cool. But she's not robbing the graves, okay, for like jewels. She's robbing them for bodies, because it's very like Frankensteinish. Scientists like Frankenstein are using the bodies, but it sounds very dark and morbid, but there's also, you know, just a fight to do what's right, and romance. I really liked the love interest. I really loved this book, and I'm just surprised that it doesn't seem to be as unanimous when I look on Goodreads, or I don't really hear many people talk about it. I think I heard about it from the Brightside Girl on YouTube, because she did a video on different Frankenstein retellings, and I am so glad I prioritized it and read it. I really, really enjoyed it. One of my top reads of the year. Guys, another, and Corpse Bride, by the way, came out in 2021, so that was another one of my 2021 reads. And another young adult that I rented from the library and ended up loving was Vengeance Road by Erin Bowman. And I don't know how I heard about this book, but I loved it because it's Western. It came out in 2015, so this is kind of older for the young adult books, and this tells about Kate Thompson. Her father has been murdered kind of by a notorious group. They're called like the Rose Riders, and you know, we're in like the cowboy age, and she decides that she's going to avenge his death because he was killed. She finds out because he had a journal, a secret journal that didn't, you know, it doesn't reveal he had a secret family or something like that. It reveals a treasure map to a gold mine, and so that's why he was killed. And he had always instilled in her, because it was just the two of them, if anything happens to you, go to this man. And so she goes to that man, but she's going undercover as a boy because she wants to avenge her father's death, and she's not going to be able to do that as a girl in this era. So she goes undercover as a boy. That man has passed, but his two sons help her, and of course there ends up being some romance with the sons. So that, oh, I loved it. I loved it, and I loved just the setting. She does have a follow-up book that came out already. It's called Retribution Rails. It came out in 2017, and I actually got that from YouTuber Wendy with an I. I think her channel though is called Happiness and Sweet Tea. We did a Christmas book exchange, which you can watch on this channel. But I got that book, and she also did like a prequel of the two, where it's a 1.5, so I guess in between 1 and 2 is, you know, what it was labeled on Goodreads, but I definitely want to read them both. Now, in addition to young adult, and I do read adult fiction, though it's not coming up too much on this list yet, but I like children's literature. I really do. I find that they're so heavy with like beautiful symbolism. Oh, it's just so good. I highly recommend it. If you haven't revisited children's lit since you were a kid, I recommend it. And one of the books I really love this year was called A Duet for Home, and it is by Karina Glaser, and she has written other children's books. It's like the I want to say Vanderbeek, but I don't know if I'm just thinking of James Vanderbeek, but something with Vander. a kid's series. I know so much about just everything. All right, so this book came out in 2022, so we got a 2022 read, and it talks about we have two biracial 6th graders, and we have June and Tyrell, and they are both living in a homeless shelter with their families, and you get the two different perspectives and also the commonality of their love of music, but you just get, it's just so important, you know, you just, it's tough because like especially as a New Yorker, it's just not, you see the politics that goes into something that should just not be political, I guess. I don't know. There just needs to be in better ways, better help, better processes in place, and this book kind of sheds light on all of that. The next book was another 2022 release, and this was an adult book, but nonfiction, and it is The Monster's Bones. Let's get this subtitle. The Discovery of T-Rex and How It Shook Our World by David K. Randall. Oh, if you're a dino lover, or even if you're just a movie lover, science lover, if you're a New York City lover, this is really cool too, because it's so much about the history of the Museum of Natural History and Osborne. What's his first name? Henry Fairfield Osborne. You know, he is the owner of the Museum of Natural History, and dinosaurs are the pull for museums. The problem is he doesn't have one, or a complete one. And then here comes along Barnum Brown discovers the first T-Rex, and he becomes kind of Osborne's way to bring appeal to his New York museum, because it's all about what dinos you have, and to have the T-Rex, which is just like, whoa. Barnum's also story is just, oh my god, it's so good. It really would make a fantastic movie. The traveling he does, the coping he does, he kind of continues to explore as his way of coping with his own tragedies. He does not follow suit in his exploring. A lot of this we deal with people who would kind of rob the other dig sites or dig where other people were digging, and you really see how Barnum uses his own knowledge and expertise to decide where to dig and almost kind of set the standard and set the tone. And he discovered several T-Rexes at a time where no one else had discovered any. So it's just crazy. And I think he also discovers a Triceratops too. It's just really fascinating. He discovers a lot of things, and they go into detail of all of that, and also like transporting it back. So let's say he discovers a T-Rex in Montana. He has to plaster the bones so they can maintain their integrity, and then put them on a train and send them through train to New York, and then they have to be reworked on, carefully taken out of the plaster, and then you have to figure out how to assemble it, right? Because the T-Rex originally was famously known for incorrectly being made to stand upright, and then over time is when we realized, you know, his posture, and that was all a part of the process of what they had to discover. So fascinating, and I think it would just make a magnificent mini-series or story. Really, really incredible. And I rented that from the library as well. And we have another library rental using my library a lot, mostly for ebooks. This one came out in 2021, and it is The Ivies by Alexa Donne. And what was cool about reading this is she is one of the few author tube channels who has, you know, traditionally published books, which is just cool to see. It's cool to see there are self-published authors who are on YouTube as well. My favorite, and I think one of the most successful self-published authors on YouTube, is at the channel Heart Breathings. It's Sarah Cannon. So these have been fun to read. But The Ivies is a boarding school thriller, young adult, so fun, about a group of girls who are all vying to get into the college of their dreams, or they would kill to get into the college of their dreams. So it's really about that when somebody turns up dead, we don't know, and our main character doesn't know if, oh, siren, no one's letting this truck go. So about figuring out the mystery of the lengths people would go to get that spot into that Ivy League school. So I really loved it. I love boarding school books. They're just fun. And this one had the mystery element, so it's good. If you liked Truly Devious, I would pick this one up for sure if you like Truly Devious. I enjoyed it a lot. Next up is my only self-published book on the list, but I hope you will check it out. It is called The Dragon Storm, Gates Book 1 by Anthony DiPaolo. And this is available right now on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have that, you'll be able to rent it, you know, and read it without any cost. So this follows Alexander Storm and a diverse team of would-be heroes in search of these 12 different puzzle pieces, essentially, to prevent pretty much the gates of hell from opening. So this is like a paranormal, archaeological, fantasy mystery, a lot in once. It's like if you took Indiana Jones and you combined it with the Da Vinci Code, you would get this story. And what's fun about that is, well, that I love those two things like on their own. So I really enjoyed it. So if you like those, add this to your list. It made my top 10. And he has a book too coming out, I think, gosh, like any day now. So that's kind of what's fun about when you follow a self-published series. Like you really could get it at like any time. So can't wait. And the next, finally, we got another adult fiction now, and because that one it's Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. So this is a very well-known, loved book that I finally got to this year. I had a physical copy, so the last two were physical reads, not rentals, and oh, I loved it. I really did. I loved it more than the movie, but I thought the movie was very good. So this book is about the Marsh Girl, and the Marsh Girl is, she's an actual person, but she becomes almost more of like this figure and myth in the North Carolina town that she lives in. And she's, as the result of being part of this figure, you know, she hasn't gone to school. She went one day and you know, kids don't know what they don't know, and laughed at her and maybe weren't nice, and you know, it's sad when you see that happen, you know, because it's like, oh. So anyway, when one of the popular figures in town is found murdered, they all blame the Marsh Girl. So this is that story, and it's one of those things where it's like, for example, when I read Hunger Games, I knew why I loved it. Like every chapter just ended where I needed to know more, and it was action-paced and then just quick. And this, I have no idea why I couldn't stop turning the page, but I just couldn't stop turning the page. It is one of those books. Buster, come on your condo. We got Buster a new cat condo for Christmas, and he's been a little hesitant about it. I caught him in the bedroom staring at the old condo, and it made me sad. The next book that I loved was a fantasy, Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This came out in 2013, and this book came recommended to me a lot because my favorite read of last year was the Renegade series by Marissa Myers. So I was like, I need more superheroes, and so people said to check this out. And this is superheroes in a very literal sense. Like, I call it a fantasy, but it does not feel like a fantasy. It is like if you had to make logistical explanations for superheroes, this is what it would be. The cat is coming on the condo, so that's why we're getting some shakies. Thanks for coming, Buzz. Okay, no, I'm crazy. So it starts off with Victor and Eli. They're college roommates, and Eli starts doing a project on the correlation between near-death experiences and adrenaline and the ability to inherit supernatural powers. So they decide to play around with that knowledge, and we have some, you know, Extraordinary Results. It is really good. This is another one that would be a fantastic series, and just really, really fast. This one I read really quickly. I'm sorry about the cat. I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry to you guys. I know. Okay. It does have a book too I haven't read yet. Vengeful. That came out in 2018. So hopefully that will be on next year's list. Buster. He ignores his condo all day. Now he wants it. That's the life of a cat. So, let's round out the top 10. We got another young adult library rental. This one came out in 2009. So this one is the oldest of all the books. And it is Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. So this is part of the Wolves of Grace Valley. I don't know. The Wolves of something series. The Wolves. This book I remember being really big after Twilight in those days. It is about a girl named Grace who's always watched the wolves in the woods by her home, and she always felt a connection to one after a near-death experience from the wolves as a kid. And now she's a teenager, and she recognizes her wolf again. And he is not just a wolf, he is, I guess, what you would call a werewolf. He can, you know, also go into his boy form or man form. He's kind of in between the two, I guess. So Sam is fighting to stay human, but it is so he can be with Grace. He loves Grace, but there is this whole world between the wolf world and the human world and everything that's going on in between. And, you know, I liked it while I was reading it, but it was after that I was like, okay, this is one of my favorite books, because I just kept thinking about it. I just kept thinking about this book, and that's what made me put it on the top 10. So Linger is one I will have to read next year. So most of these books, right, we have Shiver, Vicious, The Dragon Storm, Vengeance Road, and The Other Merlin. So half the books have sequels that I have not read. So let's make 2023 the year of trying to get to some of these sequels, because I think that would be really fun. Let's show you the cat. Hello. So in his defense, I did put catnip on the condo to try to get him to come, but you know, that was before I started filming on it. But you know, it's my fault. I shouldn't film on his condo, but I did. So, thank you guys for tuning in to my top 10. If you were doing a top 10 on your channel, I would love to know. Those are my favorite YouTube videos to watch, because I want to know what you liked, right? I want the good recommendations. And also, if I'm curious to know if you had a genre that most of your top picks were. Just like mine was young adult. I'm wondering what yours are. So I will have videos every week as long as I can keep up here on this channel. So I hope you will subscribe and join us. Thank you for being here for this one, and I will see you soon.